Hi all. I'm glad some of you enjoyed the pawn structure overview. I wonder if it would be interesting to zoom in on particular structures and also to establish a kind of template model for assessing each structure in a rigorous way. I have in mind here going beyond sortis, things for white, things for black, and the opening it usually comes from. I want to see if we can more scientifically study structures using a particular set of template questions. And it struck me that in Kotov's Think Like a Grandmaster, there were a number of template questions which could be asked of any fundamental structure. But I have my own questions and logical associations as well, which I want to try out on this structure, which is the Caro Formation. So named because it can often come out of the Caro defense. So in the Caro Formation here, the template questions I want to consider are like transformation options. I consider that when you look at a structure and you want to transform it into another one, you're transforming it into another structure because you're trying to emphasize exploitable weaknesses, or you might be able to, you're trying to liberate pieces. So there's transformations options. So if we look for white and black here, I put kings on to make it a legal position with chess base. But let's look at transformation options for white. Okay, so white could transform this into a position where he plays c4 and then threatens like d5 later. Actually, let's play that move c4, say a6. So there's some tension here for d5, and this could perhaps open up a bishop on the diagonal d5, or it could, mean that there's a knight could go into d4 and then to f5 if this pawn's exchanged off. So let's have a look at this, for example. And you can imagine a knight maneuver like that. So there's a transformation option of a timely d5 at some point. What's another transformation option? I can't think of any, actually, at the moment. For black, it seems more clear-cut that either c5 or e5 from the initial position is a transformation option. c5 to get some pressure on this semi-open c file, and e5, the semi-open e file. Now, actually, it will be shared with white. Now, on files which are not shared with the opponent, so say you did have a semi-open c file, and white took. So let's just imagine c5, and white had taken with a piece on d4, say a knight. Then that would give black an outpost on the semi-open file. So say there was a knight to take on d4. So that's one important thing to do with transformation options. Outposts, getting rid of bad pieces like bad bishops, liberating, creating semi-open files which are not shared with the opponent. King safety considerations. So this might be another major heading. I'm not sure. I think white, because of this pawn on d4, has got some attacking opportunities. It's often getting a knight on e5, eyeing f7, or being able to use this semi-open file here, to switch a rook in. So in terms of king safety, I think black needs to be more wary than white here, because this structure gives, the semi-open e file. It's kind of dangerous for transforming, pieces into attacking resources. For black, the king safety implication here, well, I think it's less clear. It's a more passive position for black to attack the white king. Another major heading, undermining opportunities. So from black's point of view, d4 represents a point of the pawn chain to easily undermine with either c5 or e5. It's the most exploitable, part of the pawn chain. For white, the undermining opportunities I think are more difficult. Maybe f4, f5, maybe it's to do with e6 or c4, d5. But the problem with d5 is the pawn on c6. So maybe f4, f5 to leave black, maybe with an isolated pawn. So in a way, it's a transformation opportunity as well. Okay, so I've looked at some major headings, but there's some more from Kotov's Think Like a Grandmaster, which is very interesting to consider. So good or bad bishops, folds to open or close. Good or bad bishops for black. Obviously, there's a bishop on c8. It's going to be bad unless e5 is played later, or it goes on this diagonal. For white, I think white's bishops are kind of healthy usually on these, often maybe even on these diagonals. They're much healthier proposition here without any pieces being blocked in. Files to open or close. Well, this is related to transformation opportunities. I think black may want to try and get a semi-open C file or share the E file. In fact, in sharing the E file, it would also isolate white's pawn here, giving an isolated queen's pawn. So maybe E5 is going to be often more preferable, as the overview article indicated, if black's creating an isolated queen's pawn here. Cooperation or harmony considerations. I think white has potentially greater harmony from the outset because these bishops are coordinating well on different coloured squares, the light and dark squared bishop. Central control. Well, here at the moment white's got a good grip on e5, and with the semi-open e file can establish a grip, but it's going to be undermined with c5 later if the knight outpost is used on e5. So central control is imbalanced because there's a constant threat if white occupies e5 of black playing c5. The pawn chain value, where the pawn advances reside. The pawn chain value. Well, if white's pawn chain it does end up with an isolated queen's pawn, then the value of black's pawn chain will be better, because white will have 3 islands, 2 pawns there, pawn there, 3 islands against black's 2. So potentially black's got a better pawn structure transformation prospects, I would say. But the king safety element is in white's favour. So who stands better? Initiative, who must attack, who must defend? So this is a kind of Kotov question for assessing the position. I think black will end up having to try and defend most of the time. So white, it's the onus on white to sort of use this position to attack, leveraging the semi-open file, the e5 square, being able to switch rooks in, and the harmonious bishops. So I know I've gone into a lot more detail on this structure than the first video, but I wanted to establish a key set of questions. I don't know if this video is at all interesting, or I just want to make sure that maybe together we can learn to get a better strategic grip on positions immediately, without the chaos of the full position. To understand the structures is perhaps to understand the soul of the game, the soul of chess, according to Philidor anyway. And maybe it's true. And someone, by the way, commented it's like an NFL play setup. I never really understood American football. However, my brother recently went to an American football game with someone, and he did say that the start and stop nature was interesting because of these plays, these setups had specific considerations. There was a mini strategy in each play, and someone echoed that. And maybe that's the case here. So if we have a reasonable template to ask questions about any structure, then maybe during our own games we can more immediately see things like potential squares to use, semi-open files, transformation opportunities, and to immediately know who must attack and defend, stuff like that. So yeah, please leave any comments or questions on YouTube. Thanks very much.